The Galactic Council had seen many species rise and fall across the millennia. They had witnessed empires built on logic, civilizations founded on honor, and federations forged through fear. But humanity? Humanity confused them. Ari stood in the observation bay of the Celestial Harmony, humanity's first diplomatic vessel to venture beyond the Sol system's boundaries. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, she watched the swirling nebula of Sector 7 paint the darkness with colors that had no names in any Earth language. She was humanity's ambassador to the Vrex Collective, a species of reptilian predators who had conquered 12 star systems through sheer martial prowess. The Vrex were not known for their patience. The delegation arrives in 30 seconds, the ship's AI announced in its carefully neutral tone. Ari smoothed down her uniform, a simple affair of dark blue with Earth's insignia embroidered over her heart. No weapons, no armor, just herself and a datapad containing humanity's proposal for a peaceful trade agreement. The Council had warned her. The Vrex respected only strength. Show weakness and humanity's petition would be denied before it began. The airlock hissed open. Commander Thexval entered first, his scales gleaming like polished emeralds under the ship's lights. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his powerful tail sweeping behind him with the unconscious menace of a whip. Behind him came his officers, each one a testament to Vrex evolution, apex predators who had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain, and then reached for the stars. But it was the small creature at Thexval's feet that caught Ari's attention. Kane was barely 2 feet long, his scales still soft with youth, showing the dull brown coloring of a juvenile. The cub's eyes, large and golden, darted around the observation bay with unbridled curiosity. He was, Ari's briefing had mentioned, the commander's offspring, brought along as part of some Vrex tradition she didn't fully understand. Ambassador Ari, Thexval's voice rumbled like distant thunder. We meet at last. Commander. Ari extended her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Thexval stared at the offered hand for a long moment. The Vrex didn't shake hands. They bared their throats to show trust, an instinctive gesture that went against every predatory impulse in their biology. To offer a throat was to offer one's life. The commander did not bare his throat. Instead, Kane darted forward, his small claws clicking against the deck plating. Before anyone could react, the cub lunged at Ari's boot, standard-issue military footwear, scuffed from years of service and bit down with all the force his developing jaw could muster. The observation bay fell silent. Ari looked down at the small creature dangling from her boot. Kane's eyes were squeezed shut with concentration, his entire body vibrating with the effort of his attack. His needle-sharp teeth couldn't penetrate the reinforced leather, but that didn't stop him from trying. Every Vrex in the room tensed. Thexval's hand moved toward the plasma pistol at his hip. To attack an ambassador, even accidentally, even as a juvenile, it was an insult that demanded response. Blood for blood. Honor for honor, Kane. Thexval's voice cracked like a whip, but Ari was already moving. She crouched down slowly, bringing herself to the cub's level. Kane released her boot and looked up at her, his golden eyes wide with surprise at this giant creature that had suddenly matched his height. For a moment, predator and human simply stared at each other. Then Ari reached out and gently tapped Kane on the nose. It wasn't a strike. It wasn't even firm enough to be called a correction. It was the same gentle gesture a mother might use with an overexcited puppy, a simple no made physical, a boundary set with kindness rather than violence. Kane froze. The cub's eyes went wider. His small body began to tremble, and then, to everyone's absolute shock, Kane rolled over onto his back, exposing his soft underbelly to Ari. His tail wagged against the deck plating in rapid, joyful movements. A sound emerged from his throat that Ari had never heard of Vrex make, something between a purr and a chirp. The juvenile was playing. Impossible. One of Thexval's officers whispered in their harsh language. Ari couldn't help but smile. She reached down and scratched Kane's belly, right where the scales were softest. The cub's entire body wriggled with delight, his small claws pawing at the air as if trying to catch something only he could see. You're just a baby, aren't you? Ari murmured. All that fierce reputation and you're just a baby who wants to play. Thexval stood frozen, his hand still hovering near his weapon. In all his years, All his campaigns across the stars, he had never seen anything like this. Cain had been trained from birth in the Vrex way. Strength, dominance, the law of fang and claw. The cub knew no other language, yet this human, this soft creature from a world the Vrex had dismissed as barely worth noticing, had communicated with his son in a way that bypassed every instinct, every lesson, every fundamental truth of Vrex existence. She had shown correction without cruelty, boundary without violence, and Cain had responded with trust. How? The word escaped Thexval before he could stop it. Ari stood, and Cain immediately scrambled to his feet, pressing against her leg like a domesticated creature seeking comfort. She looked at the commander, and in her eyes he saw something that made his warrior's heart skip a beat. She wasn't afraid. She had never been afraid. On Earth, Ari said quietly, we learned something a long time ago. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about knowing when not to. She gestured to Cain, who was now attempting to climb up her leg, his small claws finding purchase in the fabric of her uniform. Your son bit my boot because he's curious, because he's young and testing boundaries. He didn't need punishment, he needed guidance. We Vrex do not believe in gentleness, Thexval said, but his voice lacked conviction. No, Ari agreed. You believe in strength, so do we. We just define it differently. She knelt again and carefully detached Cain from her leg, holding the cub up to eye level. He chirped at her, his tail still wagging with pure joy. The strong protect the weak, Ari continued. The strong teach with patience. The strong know that true power isn't taken by force. It's given freely by those who trust you. She handed Cain back to his father. The cub immediately tried to squirm back toward Ari, reaching for her with his small claws, making sounds of protest. Thexval held his son and felt something shift in his chest, something he had no word for in his own language. He looked at this human ambassador, this representative of a species his people had barely noticed, and understood with sudden clarity why the Galactic Council watched humanity with such interest. They were strong, not in the way of the Vrex perhaps, but strong nonetheless. Your proposal, Thexval said slowly, we will hear it. And as Cain finally settled in his father's arms, still watching Ari with adoring eyes, the commander did something he had never done for any outsider. He bared his throat.